Hey, Sully, how are you?
Little chillier than that LA weather, right?
A little bit, but we only got to be outside. For me, one more day
Right.
before we head indoors. So we'll persevere through one more day, basically.
What's going on, man? Have you put the lights up outside on the house? Or any injuries related
Christmas.
to that?
Yeah, I can't. I don't start Christmas until this weekend's over. Then I start thinking about Christmas, basically. High school football season's got to end before I start thinking about Christmas.
There you go. Be careful on the ladder. We don't want any turned ankles or anything.
Yeah, no, I don't hang the lights. I just direct people. I sit in a chair and direct people as they hang the lights. So there's no danger of me twisting an ankle or falling off a ladder or doing anything. I sit in a chair and direct other people.
You go the lazy route. You got that star shower thing, don't you?
Exactly. Nah, I don't even do that. That's a cop out. I gotta hand one string of lights across the gutter before I do that. Basically,
So what's up, man? It's championship weekend, and obviously some pretty cool matchups. We just talked to Andrew DePasquale, assistant coach at Holy Spirit, about the modern-day St. Joe matchup. Gave us some pretty interesting insight into those two teams, and kind of what you might expect. I think what we're going to see tomorrow is that aerial attack of modern day, trying to keep up with that what you call the ground and pound from St. Joe. I mean, obviously they're going to run the ball probably 35, 40 times, I would think.
Yeah, if not more. I think the St. Joe Mater Dei game is probably to me, it's one of the better games, at Rowan this weekend, 2:30 tomorrow. And it is a sort of contrast of styles. And I think, Mater Dei with quarterback George Pearson, the plays he's able to make, Elijah Ingram at running back but to me, the game comes down to can St. Joe slow down George Pearson, the Mater Dei quarterback. And on the flip side, can Mater Dei stop St. Joe from scoring? I tend to think that obviously Pearson is going to make some plays, but, nobody has stopped the St. Joe offense this season. Nobody stopped Q Townsend and Jada Byers and guys like Nate Johnson and stuff. So, I think St. Joe will try to control the ball as much as possible, but it's a classic, contrast in styles. It's almost who's going to give up the less big plays, basically.
Well, one thing, Mike, we really haven't talked about too much so far during the show is just the depth of Mater Dei. I mean, they're not a really big team in terms of numbers wise. So, can they keep rotating in defensive linemen that can put up with the wear and tear that the St. Joe offensive line is going to dish out?
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing too, and the flip side is that St. Joe defensive line is much better this year than it was last year. Sincere Tapp, Brad Lomax, Wisdom Quashie, Sean Morris. I think they've combined for almost 70 tackles for losses. So are they going to be able to get pressure on Pearson? Last year you look at the St. Joe Mater Dei game. Mater Dei beat St. Joe 26-0. And talking to Coach, I was at the game talking to Coach Paul Sockel about it. They said it was really just a couple of big pass plays. Mater Dei didn't really run for a lot of yards. They just threw 2 or 3 big pass plays, and then the Mater Dei defense shut down the St. Joe offense. So I think Mater Dei is going to be able to score. I think they're going to score 21 points against St. Joe. The question is, I think St. Joe can score, 28, 35 points against Mater Dei, basically.
Yeah, definitely some interesting matchups when you dive further into it. Like you said, the defensive line of St. Joe against that real kind of really tough passing attack to defense because Pearson can get outside the tackle box and make some plays that way. I think really what might have to happen is if Mater Dei gets behind, they may need to come with some run blitzes and that kind of thing and really sell out to stop that run, which may lead to some big plays for St. Joe.
Well, and plus, I think you mentioned Mater Dei getting behind. I don't think they're ever out of a game because of what Pearson can do, and nobody knows that better than Holy Spirit. From 2 weeks ago, Mater Dei has broken Holy Spirit's heart twice. So Pearson, with his ability to throw the football and extend plays, it's hard for high school guys to cover, especially some of the Mater Dei receivers downfield for so long. So Pearson's ability to extend plays and make big throws is probably going to help out, help Mater Dei. But like you said, I mean, St. Joe offensively is on a different level this season. Jada Byers is a year older. Townsville, I think, is much better, had a much better year than last year. Guys like Nate Johnson, who would be, the number one back on 9 out of 10 teams, in South Jersey, is a complimentary guy almost. The offensive line is bigger, stronger, a year older. You add Sean Morris into the mix at 287 pounds for St. Joe. Wisdom Quashie is a year older. I mean, and looking, last year, after last year's game, a lot of people looked at St. Joe and said, what's wrong with St. Joe? Well, what was wrong with St. Joe is they might have been a year away. They might have been a year too young, but that's not to say that a game against that Mater Dei does not present them with a formidable challenge, and it's probably, in all the years, St. Joe has won 18 state titles since the state non-public playoffs began in 1993. I mean, this Mater Dei team is probably, one of the better teams that St. Joe has faced in the final.
It's funny you mentioned people wonder what was wrong. We talked to Coach Rasso about that for Hamilton, and you lose 1 or 2 games in the town of Hamilton, whether you're at St. Joe or a Blue Devil, and the people at the barbershop start whispering, what's going on here? What's wrong with these boys? So it's kind of like I mentioned it to Coach Rasso. It's kind of like one of those old West Texas towns. It's we're 1-1. What's wrong? What's going on here?
right, exactly. I mean, last year St. Joe was 7-4, and and went to the state semifinals, and it was like the sky was falling. The program was in decline. This and that. Now they're back 11-0. And you mentioned Hampton. Of course, they had that 5-game losing streak in the middle of this season. But, they were a Group 4 team, and of those 5 losses during during that losing streak, Williamstown, Rancocas, Cherokee, Millville, all Group 5 playoff teams. So, the bottom line is Hamilton was probably they were playing a Group 5 schedule. So when they got in the Group 4 playoffs, they were battle-tested, and they were able to turn it around against Central Regional. They win an emotional game against Highland, and now they got to figure out a way to play, to play against the Shawnee team that, kind of beat them by 4 touchdowns a couple of weeks ago.
One of the cool things, Mike, that Coach Sacco said was, in the preseason, he went out of his way to find the best teams in New Jersey to put these guys up against in scrimmage games, teams like Long Branch and Paramus Catholic. And he wanted these guys to see what it was like to play that high level of football. And not a lot of teams will do that in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, they tested themselves against Timber Creek, and Millville also was in that scrimmage schedule. So, and then the regular season schedule, not bad. I mean, St. Augustine, Holy Spirit, an Allentown team from up in Central Jersey, Cedar Creek, a South Jersey Group 2 semifinalist, Ocean City, a playoff team. So, I think if you look at the 2 schedules the teams have played, St. Joe and Mater Dei, St. Joe probably gets the edge there too.
Talking with Mike McGarry of the Press of Atlantic City, and Mike, just got to be a great atmosphere around Hamilton High School this week, and to have your team in the finals going in as a 6 seed. I don't think anybody expected that. That's one of those things as a high school that can kind of rally everybody. I mean, you're having pep rallies and everything else, and it kind of just brings up the whole school for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about that 5-game losing streak and that 5-6 record. Well, literally throw those out the window. Nobody's going to remember those on Sunday when they kick off at 6:00 at night. What matters is Hamilton is back in a South Jersey final, and it's a credit to those players. It's a credit to those seniors, guys like Dan Warfel. I got a story coming out in tomorrow's paper about Giancarlo Palmieri, a Hamilton senior who started at quarterback last season. And Palmieri kind of epitomizes Hamilton's determination and grit. He played quarterback last season. About midway through the year, Coach Jim Rasso has to sit him down and say, hey, I think things aren't working out at quarterback here. We're going to make a change. Palmieri had been a quarterback his whole life. No kid wants to hear those words. But, he doesn't sulk. He doesn't pout. He says, okay, well, what do I have to do to stay on the field? What can I do to still help this team win? They switch him to outside linebacker. He makes a big interception in one of their regular season wins against Washington Township, returns it for a touchdown. He's a team captain, and he's been really one of the leaders of the team. So it's guys like Palmieri, Dan Wolfel, Sean Riker on Hamilton, seniors that kind of hung in there. Football's an easy sport, to sort of pack it in, especially when you're losing 5 in a row. Because not only are you losing, you might get being beat up a little bit physically when you're losing. You lose a basketball game by 20, you can get out of bed the next morning without any problems. You lose a football game by 3 touchdowns, you might have to struggle to get out of bed the next morning. So football's an easy sport to sort of, hey, pack it in. And Hamilton never did, and that's a credit to their coaching staff and the seniors on the team.
How surprised are you, Mike, that they're in the finals? I mean, did you see this coming? Obviously, you knew they had a tough schedule. We're a pretty good team, but I don't know if anybody really thought they could make it through 2 rounds of that group.
No, I mean, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think anybody saw it coming. I mean, they go up to Central Regional. Central Regional was the 3 seed. They win that game. I don't think anybody saw it coming. And now, now they've got to figure out a way against a Shawnee team that beat them, I think it was 38-7 a month ago. But Hamilton did turn the ball over 3 or 4 times in that game. Hamilton did throw a pick 6 in that game. And Coach Jim Russo said in every game they lost this season, it wasn't like they played badly. What they did was they had a quarter in every one of those games where things went drastically wrong, where they turned the ball over 2-3 times, maybe gave up 2-3 touchdowns in that one quarter. So I think if Hamilton limits the turnovers and manages to slow down Shawnee, it can be a closer game than it was a month ago. If Hamilton can avoid that sort of one bad quarter that sort of afflicted them in all their losses.
Yeah, and you've been around this for 20, 25 years, so in high school anything can happen. Maybe Hamilton comes out and scores on their first drive, and that can flip the whole game around.
Right. Early success is another thing that you're looking for. If Hamilton can put together a drive early in the game, build some confidence, sort of stabilize the game early. Those are the keys when you're an underdog in any situation. You don't want to go out there if you're Hamilton and turn the ball over or, kick you off to Shawnee, allow Shawnee to score, then Hamilton goes 3 and out or turns it over and Shawnee scores again, and all of a sudden you look up, you're down 14-0. It's going to be a long day. If you're Hamilton, what you want to do is, you want to get the ball or, stop Shawnee early, score, have it be 7-0, 7-7 in that first quarter. The first thing Hamilton wants to do is sort of, and the first thing any underdog wants to do is sort of stabilize the game early on.
Mike, do you think that the time of the game has any impact on these guys? When you're an underdog, you kind of just want to get out there and play, and they got to sit around and wait till 6 o'clock at night.
Well, at least you're getting your money's worth. If you're the first game there today, you're out and done early. So the interesting thing about the time is Hamilton played one of the first games played in South Jersey. They played on that Friday before Labor Day. They played Bridgeton that night. I think they won that game 20-0 or 21-0, and that was one of the first games played in South Jersey this season. And now Hamilton's going to play the last game in South Jersey this season. They're going to open and close the show. So, it'll be a little. I'm sure that they've got to wait till 6 o'clock tomorrow to kick off. But I don't think that'll have any factor on it. I just think it's unique that Hamilton has had a long season. They opened the South Jersey season. They played the earliest possible date, and now they're closing the show. They're playing the last game in South Jersey this season.
Well, Mike, definitely a great day tomorrow. If you're any kind of Hamilton football fan, you get to watch St. Joe and Hamilton back-to-back, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And bring your quarters, too, because if you're an adult, it's $5. For some reason, it's $5.50 to get in at Rowan. So bring quarters, bring exact change to move the line quicker. I've seen past years where they run out of quarters at Rowan and they've got to go to the local supermarket looking for quarters or something. So bring exact change, and you'll probably make yourself for an easy day. But it is a great day out there. A great game in the morning. 11 a.m., Haddonfield and West Deptford for the Group 2 title, 2 rivals, 2 old-time Colonial Conference schools. Then I think a really great game with a lot of great athletes on the field, St. Joe and Mater Dei. And then it closes with Hamilton, which is, kind of the Cinderella story of the playoffs against Shawnee at 6 o'clock. So it should be a great day of football up at Rowan University tomorrow.
Well, get your rest today, man. You got a full day tomorrow.
Exactly. To bed early tonight. No breaking curfew.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks as always, and we'll catch up with you next week, buddy. We'll start talking some hoops.
Absolutely. One more day outside, and then we're in gym. So let's go.
All right, man. Thanks, bud. Have a good weekend.
All right. See you later, Sully. Thanks.
That was Mike McGarry, the Press of Atlantic City. Always enjoy his take on South Jersey high school sports.